Welcome, fellow freaks, geeks, and nostalgic peeps to my channel, Simon Slashers, where, yeah, we talk about everything from Nickelodeon slime to horror movie slashers, but plenty of stuff in between, including books. Today's video, it's going to be a nice and cozy wrap-up video. I'm going to be talking about all the books I read for the
Christmas Evil Readathon. So yes, it won't be a sweet, cozy video. It'll be like a delightfully evil, cozy video. So buckle in, my buds, because right after this short intro, we will get into everything I read in December.
Welcome back, guys! If you're new here, please excuse this video and check out a few of my other videos, because this video will not be as, I guess, as precisely edited as some of my other ones. This one might not be as fancy, but I'm gonna try my best. I am waiting till the last minute to record this. Like usual, I tried to do it ahead of time, but it is what it is. We can't all be perfect sometimes. Alright, so I've got my handy dandy, not notebook, but this came from my handy dandy binder, and it is my little printed out worksheet that I did for Christmas Evil. So it's my little bingo chart, printable. Alright. So let's go through the prompts and what I read for each prompt. This does differ from what I originally planned during my Christmas Evil TBR video. So some of the books moved around, some books that I had planned were omitted and replaced with other things. It is what it is, it sometimes happens, things change. But you know what I did? I rolled with the punches, baby, and I just went with it, and I had a really great December. I gotta say, I had freaking five-star reads in December, so it was freaking awesome. Alright, so let's get into it without further ado. First prompt was the Black Christmas prompt. Read a book featuring black magic or the occult. And for that, I chose to read Wet Bones by John Shirley. This was a book club read for my friend Kelly's book club that she runs. It's called the From Hell Book Club. And my friend Alex, over at the channel of The Bookubus, she actually picked out this book for Kelly's book club for the month of December. I will warn you guys, not everyone enjoyed this book. However, did I? Yes, bitch! I did enjoy this book very much. This book is weird. Essentially, of course this is a vintage book, hence why it's a pick for the From Hell Book Club. The whole idea of the book club is, you know, we try to read paperbacks from hell type of books, vintage books. So this was my first book I read by John Shirley, and it was kind of a splattery type of book. Did not disappoint me. I know my friend Ollie over from the channel Criminali and my friend Crystal over at the channel Fiber Artsy, they did not really jive with this book, so I know Crystal didn't even finish it. She kept trying to pick it up and just felt like there were too many characters and she couldn't connect, kept getting confused between the characters. For some reason, I didn't find myself having that problem. I don't know why. Maybe I was just in the mood to really concentrate on this book. I didn't find any kind of confusion differing between the characters for me. And I read this really quick within one day. But essentially our premise, our villains, are these guys who can somehow manipulate people's pain and pleasure centers. And that's why I considered this an occult book, because I feel like they're using some kind of black magic, they're using some kind of psychic power, and that's not really black magic, I stretched the prompt, to push and pull on people's pain and pleasure centers to get people to do what they want. And a lot of times it's really nefarious, terrible, gross things. Some of it's sexual, some of it's just, oh, let's take advantage of these people, let's hurt these people physically. It's really horrible. And yeah, I don't know, I was really intrigued and I was like, what the hell could happen next? And why are these people doing this? You know, there were still some things left unanswered and unexplored that I think could have been delved into a little bit more. And that is why I ended up giving this a 4.5, almost a 5-star. You know, just a little bit missing for me. But in terms of enjoyment and tension and just pure entertainment value for me, this was a very good time. So 4.5, that's a great overall read for me. Next prompt was Krampus. This prompt says to read a creature feature or a monster book, and for this I was actually quite literal and I chose to read a book about Krampus. So I read Krampus, the Yule Lord by Bram. This was my first read of Bram's, and hell yeah, it was incredible. It will not be my last Bram read. I actually am very excited to get to more of his work, including Slewfoot, which I'm hoping to get to in October of this year. So this was easily a 5-star. I've already talked about it in some end of the year content, so I won't go into too much detail. It was just fantastic, and if you like audiobooks, you cannot go wrong with this audiobook because it was so well narrated. The characters' voices were just done so perfectly by this narrator. So fantastic. But you know, put the audiobook aside, the story itself to me was entertaining. Our main character, he's kind of this rough and tumble, kind of poor guy. He's not having the best luck in his life. He even lost, you know, his wife to some other guy who's a real douchebag, and he's kind of trying to get back into the favor of his wife and also trying to save his family because he has a child with his, you know, estranged spouse. So in the middle of all this stuff going on with this guy, he somehow happens to witness a battle between Krampus's minions and Santa. And he gets wrapped up in all the drama between Krampus's minions, and then eventually Krampus himself, and Santa's minions as well. And so he's along for the ride, and things unfold just so perfectly. Such a well-balanced story. Everything comes together in the end, and I had a flippin' blast! Next prompt is a Christmas Carol, and this prompt says to read a haunting or a book featuring a ghost. Or, you know, a ghost story type of book. And for this, I read 2 books. The first one was Ghost Story by Peter Straub, and I actually started watching the movie last night, the movie adaptation, really liking it. I just got really tired, so I couldn't keep going. I wasn't bored or anything. I was really enjoying it. However, there was one really bad CG part near the beginning that was so bad, the special effect. I was like, no! Why did you ruin it? Otherwise, I'm enjoying the movie, but that one scene, this guy falls off something and it looks so bad. Anyway, the book though was so atmospheric, but you have to be aware that this is the slowest of slow burns in my opinion. Is there atmosphere along the way? Are there spooks along the way as you go through the book? Yes. However, I still feel like it's kind of slow. I think the characters could turn some people off in that they're just kind of some old white dudes, kind of fearing for their lives, and they're well-to-do, so it's not like they're struggling or super empathetic in terms of their station in life or anything. However, the haunting stuff that goes on and the haunting stuff that haunts these dudes, I feel like is very entertaining, whether or not you connect to the characters personally or on a really deep level. I still think what they're going through is frightening, and the stories they tell are really nail-biting. So to me, especially within the last 150 pages, you really get some great scares, some wonderful horror imagery, and so I think the slow burn is worth it, and there's enough along the way, at least there was for me, to keep me going. I gave this a 4.5-star rating. I had a good time. A really good winter read, in my opinion, but it won't be for everybody. And the second book I read for this prompt was A Christmas Carol by Tim Curry. So I found a free copy digitally of this online, and I read along as I listened to the audio, like I just said, narrated by the marvelous, the one and only Tim Curry. There's only one Tim Curry. Why? Because he's freaking a gem. He's like the coolest guy with the most unique, flawless voice ever. I love Tim Curry. Can't say enough good things about him. And A Christmas Carol narrated by him was fantastic. It really made it very entertaining. The old language did not bother me. I gave this a 5 stars. It's a classic, and it's a classic for a reason. I read this on Christmas Eve very quickly, and I'm so glad I did, because it was the perfect thing to read on Christmas Eve after seeing my parents. Next up, the prompt says to read a gifted book. For this one, I chose a book that my friend Kat gave me, and this was a very, very quick little read. This is Season's Creepings, a little collection of stories by Teresa Derwin. I gotta say, the cover is fantastic. The insides, however, not so much. I'm so glad and thankful my friend Kat gave this to me. I won't be giving it away. I love the cover. In fact, I actually put this on a little stand and almost used this book as a decoration during Christmas time. It was on my desk, like on the little edge, because I really, really do like the cover quite a bit. But the contents, I just felt like the stories were not very entertaining. Even though this is like not even, I don't even know, 30 pages, 40 pages, I struggled a little bit because I don't think it was very well written. There's editing mistakes in this short little book. Unacceptable, even if it was self-published. I just didn't think it was that well done. So I gave this a pretty low rating, and I wouldn't recommend people going out of their way to find this, but if you like the cover, I mean, I do think it's a good decoration, but I don't think it's worth it for the stories themselves. But still, Kat, I love you. I'm still thankful, still love this, still happy you gave it to me, and it looked wonderful on my desk throughout December. Next up was the mood read. You could choose anything. I actually chose to read 2 books, and I slotted them here for my mood read, and I am really pleased with what I chose. These weren't on my original TBR. So first up, my friend Katie, she's on Instagram at the handle Death by Paperbacks. She has such similar tastes to me, and she told me I should read Return of the Living Elves by Brian Assman. And it was so much fun. It was zany and bizarre. If you like horror comedy, I would say pick it up. But if you like serious horror and you don't really jive with absurdist horror comedy, then this might not be for you. We've got, of course, zombie elves as part of the story. We also have this really gross fruitcake described at one point. It may or may not turn somebody into Santa once ingested. Anyway, it's just a very weirdo story. I can't explain it. It's oddball type of things. Like, the characters had the weirdest names, for instance, that were totally unbelievable. I still loved it. I gave it 5 stars because it was so enjoyable. And it's the perfect kind of no thinking required type of read where you just want to have the Christmassy vibes and the horror vibes mixed together, and you also want to laugh and chuckle and have some gore too. It had all of that combined into one package. Next up, another read that I just kind of threw onto my TBR that was unplanned, Snowball. And this one wasn't as good as Return of the Living Elves. However, it was still fun and thematic, still had some kind of mystery to it and a little bit of horror to it, and definitely the Christmassy vibes I was looking for. This one I found out about through Marcy from Marcy Reads on Instagram. She had talked about how fun this was. It's not a perfect horror book. It's not the greatest horror book ever, but it's a nice, short, and quick, easy read that is appropriate for Christmas time. So I think you can't go wrong. It was not a 5-star, but still appropriate for Christmas time and holiday time. Next prompt is Sleigh Bells, read a slasher book. This was my least favorite read, I think, of the entire month. So for this one, it almost put me in a slump, I gotta tell you. I read the story Sleigh Bells, and Sleigh Bells is by Joe Gibson. You might see me holding up Twisted right now. This is a collection of 3 books in one by Joe Gibson. So Sleigh Bells was in this collection, and I regret buying this so bad because if her other 2 books that are included in here are as bad as Sleigh Bells, then oh shit, no! Because Sleigh Bells was a little bit boring, but the premise was so fun. All of these teenagers are trapped in a mall, and there's a killer trapped amongst them. You would think this would be a wonderful situation for a slasher because it's like a Christmas decorated mall and it's snowy outside, so they can't get out and they gotta wait it out to the next day, and you know, the killer, he's just kind of off of his hinges. All that would be a great recipe for a wonderful fun book, a nice vintagey YA 90s goodness. No, it did not deliver. The teenagers weren't really fun to read about. Some of their dialogue was a little like, oh, haha, that's so cheesy, so 90s. The kills were very disappointing, and this just did not do it for me. I buddy read this with my friend Andrew over at It Came From The Page, and my friend Kelly over at Kelly Hooked on Books. Check out their channels. We all didn't like it. Andrew did not like it very much. He read the whole thing. Kelly didn't like it, and she DNF'd it. She, like, got a few pages in, and she's like, guys, should I keep going? And we're both like, no, Kelly. No. Just DNF. So, she DNF'd, but yeah, Andrew and I, who finished it, bleh, we both didn't love it. Andrew did think some of the cheesy dialogue was kind of fun in a campy way. I just thought, you know, it was okay, but it could have been better. Next prompt is Winter Wonderland, and this is to read a book set in winter. And for this, I reread The Shining. So I kind of double dipped and used The Shining for a prompt for Christmas Evil, but I also used it because my friend Kat and I had been reading a Stephen King book every month of the year of 2022, and this was our last Stephen King read of 2022 for that project. The project was officially titled Our Year of King. So this was our last Year of King read. So yeah, I read it for that project and for Christmas Evil, and it was just as wonderful as I remember it being back when I read this originally 10 years ago. The Shining, I'm not going to go through the premise of the book. A lot of people know what this is about. Haunted hotel, essentially. A guy struggling with alcoholism, him and his family snowed in at this hotel they're supposed to be caring for. Shit hits the fan. That's a very, very simple explanation and summary, but that's basic gist. The bare bones of it. Supernatural stuff, great characters, really haunting setting, and perfect winter vibes. Literally a great, great book. And yeah, you can't go wrong with this book if you've not read it. I truly enjoy it. 5 stars all the way. It was a 5-star the first time I read it way back when, and it's still a 5-star. It holds up! Next prompt, Santa's Little Helper, and this is to read a middle grade book. And for this one, I read the cute story, Krampus and the Thief of Christmas. You've got these 2 kids, their brother and sister, and through just unfortunate circumstances, really not of their own doing, they get involved with Krampus, and the little girl winds up having to go and rescue her brother from Krampus's clutches, and things develop from there. Krampus ends up basically recruiting them to help him take down Santa, because he's got a grudge against Santa for some reason, and we find out why, and we get a lot more details than what I just laid out for you. This was so cute. I love the audiobook. It got me out of a slump. It was what I needed at the time. Very thematic. I gave this 4 stars. So much fun. If you like middle grade, I think you'd enjoy this, and if you like winter reads that are holiday appropriate, maybe you should pick this up for next December, because this was so good. It had a lot of great Krampusy vibes, and just some fun dialogue, too. Some funny dialogue between Krampus and the kids, specifically. And the final prompt was Reindeer Ride. Read a translated book or a book written by a non-US based author. And for this one, I read The Visitor by Sergio Gomez. This is a quick, short little novella. I do not have a physical copy. I was wanting so much more from this. It was very quick. Obviously, that's what a novella is supposed to be, nice and quick. However, I just felt like there was not enough detail for me. It's like an alien story, but again, I was just left wanting so much more. I think I'm gonna like a little bit longer books by Sergio Gomez. So this was my first read of his, not my favorite, but I'm still excited to dive into more of his work, maybe a little bit, longer of his work specifically, so that I can get some more fleshed out characters and more fleshed out story overall. But for this just being what it was still enjoyable, but I wouldn't go out of my way to ever reread it or anything of that nature. And my final read was the group read for the Christmas Evil Readathon, and that was Autumn Bleeds Into Winter. And it was so good. That's by Jeff Strand, of course. And I love Jeff Strand. I can't wait to read more by him this year. I'm really hoping I get to more. And this is such a tense coming-of-age book, and it's one that you're following the kid who has seen his best friend abducted, but he knows who took his friend. And so he almost tries to take care of the situation on his own, which leads to very, very nail-biting scenarios. And there's also some humor in this through the dialogue. I just love our main character. I really felt for him. And yeah, fast-paced story. Most people gave this in our group a 4-star rating or a 4.5-star rating. I gave it a 5. It won't be a 5 for most people, but it got me out of another slump that I was in during the month, and it was what I needed. It was fast, it was just engaging, and it got me into the mood of reading again. And so because of that, I gave it 5 stars. Alright guys, and before we wrap up, I want to say a very special thank you to every single person who participated in Christmas Evil. Whether or not that meant you just visited the Discord for a few minutes, maybe you only did 1 prompt, who cares? Thank you so, so much. Even if you just popped in for a sprint and that's all you did. Thank you, thank you, thank you. No matter how little you participated or how much you participated, it really means the world, not only to me, but to all of my co-hosts as well. And also, a special thank you to each one of my co-hosts. I had a blast with you guys, and an extra special thank you to Kelly, who was the creator of this whole readathon. Of course, I've already mentioned her a few times, Kelly Hooked on Books. Go check out her channel. Thank you so much, Kelly, for asking me to be a part of this wonderful event. And I can't wait to July, because July we're doing Christmas Evil. in July, like, you know, Christmas in July, but yeah, just throw the evil in there and hey, it works. And we're also going to do Christmas Evil again in December of 2023. So strap in and get ready. It's the second time I said strap in this one video. Ignore me, it is me. I'm so weird. That is just who I am, I guess, at this point. Alright guys, but for this time, that is it for me. Have you read any of the books that I talked about today? Did you enjoy any of them? Did you have a great month of reading in December? Let me know in the comments below. I also want to say a quick thank you to my Patreon members. Thank you so much. You guys are the best. I really appreciate your support, but I also appreciate every single person who takes the time to watch my videos, because even if you're not a member on Patreon, you're still supporting me by liking the video, watching the video, and or sharing the video, and also commenting on the video. Those are all free ways of supporting me, but I also appreciate my Patreon. So I appreciate everybody. Thank each and every one of you. I really do treasure you all. All right. Till next time, guys, though, you know what you can do. Keep on killing it. Bye, guys.